Everyday Psychology: How to Use Psychology to Improve Your Life by Dr. David Miller. Introduction: Why this book matters. Imagine waking up one morning and realizing that every decision you make, every interaction you have, and every emotion you feel is influenced by invisible forces within your mind. These forces, shaped by psychology, are not just abstract concepts studied in labs or lecture halls. They are the very fabric of your everyday life. They determine how you perceive the world, how you relate to others, and even how you see yourself. This book, Everyday Psychology, is your guide to understanding these forces and harnessing their power to live a more intentional, fulfilling, and successful life. Psychology is often seen as a complex academic discipline reserved for therapists, researchers, or students buried in textbooks. But the truth is, psychology is everywhere. It's in the way you form habits, the way you handle stress, the way you make decisions, and the way you connect with others. It's in the moments you feel inspired, the times you feel stuck, and the instances you wonder, why did I do that? By uncovering the psychological principles that shape our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, we can gain profound insights into ourselves and the world around us. This book is not just about theory. It's about application. It's about taking the science of the mind and using it to improve your relationships, boost your productivity, and enhance your well-being. Whether you're struggling to break a bad habit, trying to communicate more effectively, or simply looking to understand why people behave the way they do, Everyday Psychology offers practical tools and actionable advice to help you navigate life's challenges with clarity and confidence. Over the next 10 chapters, we will explore 10 foundational psychological concepts that are deeply relevant to your daily life. From cognitive biases that skew your thinking to the power of emotional intelligence in building meaningful connections, each chapter will delve into a key idea supported by real-world examples, scientific research, and practical exercises. You'll learn how to recognize the hidden patterns in your behavior, how to cultivate resilience in the face of adversity, and how to make decisions that align with your values and goals. But this book is more than just a collection of psychological insights. It's a reflection of my own journey, a journey that began with a fascination for the human mind and led me to teach psychology at one of the most prestigious institutions in the world, the University of Oxford. For years, I had the privilege of guiding brilliant students through the intricacies of psychological theory, but I often found myself wondering, how can we take these ideas out of the classroom and into the real world? How can we make psychology accessible to everyone, not just academics? This book is my answer to those questions. It's an invitation to explore the science of the mind in a way that is both engaging and practical. It's a reminder that psychology is not just a subject to be studied, it's a tool to be used. And it's a testament to the transformative power of understanding ourselves and others a little better. So whether you're a curious reader looking to learn something new, a professional seeking to improve your interpersonal skills, or someone simply trying to make sense of the complexities of human behavior, this book is for you. Together, we'll uncover the psychological principles that shape our lives and discover how to use them to create positive change. My journey with psychology began not in a lecture hall or a research lab, but in the quiet moments of self-reflection that followed life's inevitable challenges. Like many, I found myself asking questions that seemed to have no easy answers. Why do we sometimes act against our own best interests? How can we build resilience in the face of failure? What makes some relationships thrive while others falter? These questions led me to the study of psychology, a field that promised not just answers, but a deeper understanding of what it means to be human. As I delved into the subject, I was captivated by its breadth and depth. Psychology was not just about diagnosing disorders or analyzing data. It was about exploring the intricacies of the human experience. It was about understanding how our minds work, why we feel the way we do, and how we can navigate the complexities of life with greater awareness and intention. This fascination eventually brought me to the University of Oxford, where I had the privilege of teaching some of the brightest minds in the world. Teaching at Oxford was both a humbling and transformative experience. My students were not just learners, they were thinkers, innovators, and seekers of truth. Together, we explored the nuances of cognitive biases, the power of emotional intelligence, and the science of habit formation. We debated the implications of social influence, the challenges of delayed gratification, and the importance of mindset in shaping our lives. But beyond the academic rigor, what struck me most was the universal relevance of these concepts. Whether we were discussing the fundamental attribution error or the psychology of stress, the conversations always circled back to one question. How does this apply to real life? It was this question that inspired me to write Everyday Psychology. Over the years, I noticed a gap between the theoretical knowledge we discussed in class and the practical challenges my students faced outside of it. They would excel in exams and essays, but struggle with self-doubt, procrastination, or strained relationships. They understood the science, but they needed tools to apply it. This realization became the driving force behind my work, to bridge the gap between theory and practice, and to make psychology accessible to everyone, not just academics. In this book, I've distilled the lessons I've learned from years of teaching, researching, and reflecting on the human mind. Each chapter is designed to not only educate, but also empower. You'll find insights from groundbreaking studies, stories from my own life and the lives of my students, and practical exercises to help you integrate these concepts into your daily routine. My goal is to provide you with a toolkit, a set of psychological principles that you can use to navigate life's challenges with greater clarity, confidence, and compassion. But this book is also deeply personal. It reflects my belief that psychology is not just a science. It's a lens through which we can better understand ourselves and others. It's a reminder that we are all works in progress, constantly learning, growing, and adapting. And it's an invitation to approach life with curiosity, empathy, and a willingness to change. As you read this book, I encourage you to engage with it not just as a reader, but as an active participant. Reflect on the questions at the end of each chapter. Try the exercises. Share your insights with others. Psychology is not a solitary pursuit. It's a shared journey. And while I may have had the privilege of teaching at Oxford, I believe that the most profound lessons come from the everyday experiences we all navigate. So whether you're picking up this book out of curiosity, necessity, or a desire for self-improvement, I hope it serves as a valuable companion on your journey. Together, let's explore the fascinating world of everyday psychology and discover how understanding the mind can transform the way we live, one day at a time. Chapter 1: Cognitive Biases, the Hidden Filters of Our Minds. Imagine you're scrolling through social media and you come across a post that confirms a belief you've always held. You nod in agreement, share it with your friends, and feel a sense of validation. But then, just a few scrolls later, you see a post that challenges that same belief. You pause, feel a flicker of discomfort, and quickly move on without engaging. Why? Because your mind has a natural tendency to favor information that aligns with what you already believe. This is just one example of a cognitive bias, a systematic error in thinking that influences how we perceive and interpret the world. Cognitive biases are like invisible filters that shape our thoughts, decisions, and actions. They are shortcuts our brains take to process information quickly, but they often lead us astray. These biases are not flaws in our thinking. They are byproducts of how our brains are wired. In a world overflowing with information, our minds rely on these shortcuts to make sense of it all. But while they help us navigate complexity, they can also distort reality, cloud judgment, and lead to poor decisions. One of the most pervasive cognitive biases is confirmation bias, the tendency to seek out, interpret, and remember information that confirms our pre-existing beliefs. For example, if you believe that a certain diet is the best for weight loss, you're more likely to notice success stories about that diet and ignore evidence to the contrary. This bias doesn't just affect our personal beliefs. It influences everything from our political views to our professional decisions. Another common bias is the availability heuristic, which leads us to overestimate the likelihood of events based on how easily we can recall examples. For instance, after hearing about a plane crash on the news, you might feel anxious about flying, even though statistically flying is far safer than driving. This bias is why sensational news stories often have a disproportionate impact on our perceptions of risk. Then there's the anchoring bias, where we rely too heavily on the first piece of information we receive, the anchor, when making decisions. Imagine you're shopping for a new laptop, and the first one you see costs $2,000. Even if you find a similar model for $1,500 later, that initial $2,000 price tag might make the $5,100 option seem like a bargain, even if it's still overpriced. These biases are not just abstract concepts, they play out in our lives every day. I remember a student of mine at Oxford, let's call her Sarah, who struggled with confirmation bias in her academic work. Sarah was passionate about a particular theory in her field and would often dismiss evidence that contradicted it. It wasn't until she consciously challenged herself to seek out opposing viewpoints that she began to see the bigger picture and produce more balanced, insightful research. Understanding cognitive biases is the first step toward overcoming them. By recognizing these patterns in our thinking, we can start to question our assumptions, seek out diverse perspectives, and make more informed decisions. But awareness alone is not enough. We need tools and strategies to counteract these biases and think more critically. In the next part of this chapter, we'll explore real-life cases where cognitive biases have had significant consequences, both positive and negative. We'll delve into stories of how biases have shaped history, influenced business decisions, and impacted personal relationships. Through these examples, you'll see just how powerful these invisible forces can be, and why it's so important to understand them. But before we move on, let's pause for a moment of reflection. Think about a recent decision you made, whether it was a big life choice or a small, everyday one. Can you identify any cognitive biases that might have influenced your thinking? Did you seek out information that confirmed your beliefs, or did you consider alternative viewpoints? This simple exercise is the first step toward becoming more aware of the hidden filters shaping your mind. Real-life cases, when biases shape the world. Cognitive biases are not just abstract ideas confined to psychology textbooks. They have real-world consequences that can shape history, influence business decisions, and even alter the course of individual lives. Let me share a few powerful examples that illustrate just how pervasive and impactful these biases can be. Case 1, the 2008 financial crisis, anchoring bias and overconfidence. The 2008 global financial crisis is a stark reminder of how cognitive biases can lead to catastrophic outcomes. In the years leading up to the crisis, many financial experts and institutions were overly confident in the stability of the housing market. They anchored their decisions on the belief that housing prices would continue to rise indefinitely, ignoring warning signs and dismissing dissenting voices. This overconfidence bias, the tendency to overestimate our knowledge or abilities, led to risky lending practices and the proliferation of subprime mortgages. When the housing bubble finally burst, the consequences were devastating, triggering a global recession that affected millions of lives. The crisis serves as a sobering example of how biases can cloud judgment, even among experts, and highlights the importance of questioning assumptions and considering alternative scenarios. Case 2. The Challenger Space Shuttle disaster, groupthink and confirmation bias. Another tragic example of cognitive biases in action is the Challenger Space Shuttle disaster in 1986. Engineers at NASA had raised concerns about the O-ring seals in the shuttle's solid rocket boosters, which were known to malfunction in cold temperatures. However, these concerns were downplayed or ignored due to a combination of groupthink and confirmation bias. Groupthink, the tendency to prioritize harmony and consensus over critical thinking, led decision makers to suppress dissenting opinions and avoid challenging the status quo. At the same time, confirmation bias caused them to focus on data that supported their desire to proceed with the launch, while disregarding evidence that pointed to potential failure. The result was a catastrophic explosion just 73 seconds after liftoff, claiming the lives of all 7 crew members. This case underscores the dangers of allowing biases to override objective analysis, especially in high-stakes situations. It also highlights the importance of fostering environments where diverse perspectives are encouraged and critical thinking is prioritized. Case 3, Personal Relationships. The Fundamental Attribution Error. Cognitive biases don't just affect large-scale events, they also shape our everyday interactions. Consider the fundamental attribution error, the tendency to overemphasize personality traits and underestimate situational factors when judging others' behavior. For example, imagine you're at work and a colleague snaps at you during a meeting. Your first instinct might be to think, they're so rude. But what if you later learned that they had just received bad news about a family member or were under immense pressure to meet a deadline? Suddenly, their behavior takes on a different meaning. I once worked with a student, let's call him James, who struggled with this bias in his relationships. He often assumed that his friends' actions were a reflection of their character, rather than considering the context. This led to misunderstandings and conflicts that could have been avoided with a little more empathy and perspective taking. By becoming aware of the fundamental attribution error, James was able to approach his relationships with greater understanding and compassion. Case 4, the power of availability heuristic, media and perception of risk. The availability heuristic can have a profound impact on how we perceive risk and make decisions. For instance, after a high-profile crime or natural disaster, people often overestimate the likelihood of similar events occurring. This bias is fueled by the media's tendency to sensationalize rare but dramatic events, making them more available in our minds. A classic example is the fear of flying after a plane crash, even though statistically flying is one of the safest modes of transportation. This bias can lead to irrational decisions, such as avoiding air travel in favor of driving, which is far more dangerous. I remember a conversation with a friend who refused to fly after hearing about a plane crash on the news. Despite my attempts to reassure her with statistics, her fear was rooted in the vividness of the news story, not the actual risk. It wasn't until she confronted her bias and examined the data that she was able to overcome her fear and make more rational decisions, interpreting the cases. These cases illustrate the far-reaching consequences of cognitive biases, from global crises to personal misunderstandings. They remind us that biases are not just individual quirks. They are deeply ingrained patterns of thinking that can shape the world in profound ways. But there's hope. By understanding these biases, we can begin to recognize them in our own thinking and take steps to mitigate their effects. In the next part of this chapter, we'll explore practical tools and strategies for overcoming cognitive biases and making more rational, informed decisions. Reflection exercise. Take a moment to reflect on a recent decision or interaction where a cognitive bias might have influenced your thinking. Was it confirmation bias, anchoring, or perhaps the fundamental attribution error? Write down what happened and how you might approach the situation differently now that you're aware of the bias. Tools for everyday improvement: how to outsmart your biases. Now that we've explored how cognitive biases shape our world and our lives, it's time to arm ourselves with practical tools to counteract them. The good news is that while biases are deeply ingrained, they are not insurmountable. With awareness, effort, and the right strategies, we can learn to think more clearly and make better decisions. Tool 1, slow down and reflect. One of the most effective ways to combat cognitive biases is to slow down your thinking. Our brains rely on biases because they are fast and efficient, but they often lead to errors. By taking a moment to pause and reflect, you can interrupt automatic thought patterns and engage in more deliberate, rational thinking. For example, when making an important decision, ask yourself, am I relying on the first piece of information I received? Anchoring bias. Am I seeking out information that confirms what I already believe? Confirmation bias. Am I overestimating the likelihood of an event because it's vivid or recent? Availability heuristic. I often encourage my students to use a decision journal to document their thought process. By writing down their reasoning, they can identify biases and track how their decisions play out over time. This simple practice can lead to greater self-awareness and better outcomes. Tool 2, seek out diverse perspectives. Cognitive biases thrive in echo chambers, where we only hear opinions that align with our own. To counteract this, actively seek out diverse perspectives and challenge your assumptions. For instance, If you're working on a project, invite input from people with different backgrounds and expertise. If you're forming an opinion on a controversial topic, read articles from multiple sources, including those that disagree with your viewpoint. This approach not only reduces confirmation bias, but also fosters creativity and innovation. I remember a team project at Oxford where students from different disciplines came together to solve a complex problem. Initially, there was tension as each person approached the problem from their own perspective. But by embracing their differences and listening to one another, they were able to develop a solution that was far more robust than anything they could have achieved individually. Tool 3. Use checklists and frameworks. Checklists and decision-making frameworks can help you systematically evaluate information and avoid biases. For example, when faced with a difficult decision, you might use the following framework. Define the problem. What exactly are you trying to decide? Gather information. What data do you need and where can you find it? Evaluate alternatives. What are the pros and cons of each option? Consider biases. Are any cognitive biases influencing your thinking? Make a decision. Based on the evidence, what is the best course of action? This structured approach forces you to think critically and reduces the likelihood of overlooking important factors. Tool 4. Practice empathy and perspective taking. The fundamental attribution error reminds us that we often judge others too harshly while excusing our own behavior. To counteract this bias, practice empathy and perspective taking. When someone behaves in a way that frustrates or confuses you, pause and ask yourself, what might be going on in their life that I'm not aware of? How would I feel if I were in their shoes? Are there situational factors that could explain their behavior? This simple shift in perspective can transform your relationships and reduce unnecessary conflict. Tool 5. Embrace uncertainty and humility. Finally, one of the most powerful ways to combat cognitive biases is to embrace uncertainty and intellectual humility. Recognize that you don't have all the answers and that your beliefs and decisions are always subject to error. This mindset encourages you to stay open to new information, admit when you're wrong, and continuously refine your thinking. As the philosopher Socrates famously said, the only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing. Real-life application, a personal story. Let me share a personal example of how these tools have helped me in my own life. A few years ago, I was considering a major career change. My initial instinct was to focus on the potential benefits: more freedom, new challenges, and the opportunity to pursue a passion project. But I realized that I was falling prey to optimism bias, which leads us to overestimate the likelihood of positive outcomes. To counteract this, I used a decision-making framework to evaluate the risks and benefits. I sought advice from mentors and colleagues, including those who had made similar transitions. I also reflected on past decisions and how biases had influenced them. In the end, I made a more informed choice that aligned with my long-term goals. Exercises for everyday improvement. Bias audit. Reflect on a recent decision and identify any cognitive biases that may have influenced it. Write down how you could approach the situation differently in the future. Perspective-taking practice. The next time someone frustrates you, take a moment to consider their perspective. Write down 3 possible reasons for their behavior. Start a journal to document your thought process for important decisions. Include the biases you identified and how they influenced your thinking. Cognitive distortions and their impact on mental health. In the previous sections, we explored how cognitive biases shape our thoughts and decisions. But what happens when these biases become extreme or pervasive, when they distort our thinking to the point where they affect our mental health and well-being? This is where cognitive distortions come into play. These are exaggerated or irrational thought patterns that can lead to negative emotions, unhealthy behaviors, and even mental disorders. In this final part of the chapter, we'll dive deeper into specific cognitive distortions, how they manifest in everyday life, and their potential impact on mental health. We'll also explore practical strategies to challenge and overcome these distortions, helping you build a more balanced and rational mindset. False dichotomy, false dilemma, seeing only black and white. The false dichotomy is a cognitive distortion where we see situations in terms of only two opposing possibilities, ignoring the nuances and complexities in between. For example, you might think, if I don't get this job, my career is over. Or if my partner doesn't agree with me, they don't love me. This kind of black and white thinking is common in perfectionism, anxiety, and depression. It creates unnecessary pressure and limits our ability to see alternative solutions. Real life example. A student I once worked with, let's call her Emma, struggled with perfectionism. She believed that if she didn't get straight A's, she was a failure. This false dichotomy led to intense stress and burnout. It wasn't until she learned to embrace the gray areas, recognizing that success comes in many forms, that she was able to find balance and joy in her academic journey. Strategy to overcome. Challenge the either-or mindset by asking yourself, what are the other possibilities? Practice reframing. Instead of thinking, if I don't succeed, I've failed, try, even if this doesn't work out, I can learn and grow from the experience. Overgeneralization, turning one event into a pattern. Overgeneralization involves drawing broad conclusions based on a single event or small sample. For example, if you fail at one task, you might think, I'm terrible at everything. Or if one relationship ends, you might believe, I'll never find love. This distortion can lead to feelings of hopelessness and low self-esteem. It's a common feature of anxiety and depression. Real-life example. A colleague of mine once made a mistake during a presentation and concluded, I'm a terrible public speaker. This overgeneralization caused him to avoid speaking opportunities, which only reinforced his belief. It wasn't until he sought feedback and realized that everyone makes mistakes that he regained his confidence. Strategy to overcome. Look for evidence that contradicts your generalization. For example, if you think, I'm bad at everything, list your strengths and past successes. Use specific language. Instead of saying, I always fail, say, this one time didn't go as planned. Labeling, defining yourself or others by a single trait. Labeling is a cognitive distortion where we define ourselves or others based on one event or characteristic. For example, if you make a mistake, you might label yourself as a failure, or if someone disagrees with you, you might label them as stupid. This distortion can damage self-esteem and relationships. It's often seen in individuals with low self-worth or anger issues. Real-life example. I once worked with a client who labeled herself as unlovable after a breakup. This belief affected her ability to form new relationships and led to feelings of isolation. Through therapy, she learned to separate her self-worth from her relationship status and began to see herself as a whole, complex person. Strategy to overcome. Avoid using absolute labels like failure or loser. Instead, describe the behavior or event objectively. Practice self-compassion. Remind yourself that everyone makes mistakes and that one event doesn't define you. Emotional reasoning, believing feelings are facts. Emotional reasoning is the tendency to believe that something is true just because you feel it strongly. For example, if you feel anxious about a presentation, you might think, I must not be prepared. Or if you feel guilty, you might conclude, I must have done something wrong. This distortion can amplify negative emotions and lead to irrational decisions. It's common in anxiety and depression. Real-life example. A friend of mine once canceled a social event because she felt anxious and assumed, if I'm this nervous, something bad will happen. By avoiding the event, she reinforced her anxiety and missed out on a positive experience. Strategy to overcome. Separate feelings from facts. Ask yourself, is there evidence to support this belief, or is it just how I feel? Use logic to challenge emotional reasoning. Just because I feel anxious doesn't mean something bad will happen. Self-fulfilling prophecy, when beliefs shape reality. A self-fulfilling prophecy occurs when our beliefs influence our actions in a way that makes the belief come true. For example, if you believe you're bad at public speaking, you might avoid practicing, which leads to a poor performance, reinforcing your belief. This distortion can trap us in negative cycles and limit our potential. Real-life example. A student I mentored believed he wasn't smart enough to succeed in a competitive program. This belief caused him to procrastinate and avoid challenges, which led to poor grades. It wasn't until he challenged his belief and started taking small, consistent steps that he began to see improvement. Strategy to overcome: identify limiting beliefs and question their validity. Take action to break the cycle. Even if you don't feel confident, act as if you do. Over time, your actions can change your beliefs. Strategies to minimize distorted thinking: cognitive restructuring. Identify and challenge distorted thoughts. Replace them with more balanced, rational alternatives. Mindfulness. Practice being present and observing your thoughts without judgment. This can help you recognize distortions as they arise. Seek feedback. Talk to trusted friends, mentors, or therapists to gain perspective on your thinking patterns. Journaling. Write down your thoughts and analyze them for distortions. This can help you identify recurring patterns and work on changing them. Final reflection. Cognitive distortions are powerful, but they are not permanent. By recognizing these patterns and actively working to challenge them, you can break free from their grip and develop a healthier, more balanced mindset. Remember, the goal is not to eliminate all negative thoughts, but to approach them with curiosity and compassion, using the tools we've discussed to navigate life's challenges with greater clarity and resilience. Chapter 2, Emotional Intelligence, EQ, the Key to Meaningful Connections. Part 1, Understanding Emotional Intelligence, Concepts and Foundations. Imagine a world where everyone understands their emotions, communicates effectively, and navigates conflicts with grace. A world where leaders inspire, relationships thrive, and individuals feel deeply connected to themselves and others. This is the world emotional intelligence, EI, promises. A world where the science behind emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence isn't just a feel-good concept. It's deeply rooted in the science of the brain. Understanding how emotions are processed, regulated, and influenced can help us develop greater self-awareness, empathy, and control over our emotional responses. In this part of the chapter, we'll explore the neuroscience behind emotional intelligence, the role of neuroplasticity in developing EQ, and how emotional intelligence impacts decision-making. How emotions are processed in the brain. Emotions originate in the brain, specifically in two key areas: the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex. The amygdala, the emotional alarm system. The amygdala is a small almond-shaped structure deep within the brain. It's responsible for detecting threats and triggering emotional responses, such as fear or anger. When you feel a sudden surge of emotion, like panic when you hear a loud noise, that's your amygdala at work. It's fast, instinctive, and often operates before you're even aware of what's happening. The prefrontal cortex, the rational thinker. The prefrontal cortex, located at the front of the brain, is responsible for higher-order thinking, such as reasoning, planning, and decision-making. It's the part of the brain that helps you pause and think before reacting. For example, if someone cuts you off in traffic, your amygdala might trigger anger, but your prefrontal cortex can help you calm down and respond rationally. The interplay between these two brain regions is at the heart of emotional intelligence. When the amygdala and prefrontal cortex work in harmony, we can process emotions effectively and respond in ways that align with our goals and values. The role of neuroplasticity in developing EI. One of the most exciting discoveries in neuroscience is neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections throughout life. This means that emotional intelligence isn't fixed. It can be developed and strengthened with practice. How neuroplasticity works. Every time you practice a new skill or habit, your brain creates new neural pathways. Over time, these pathways become stronger, making the skill easier to perform. For example, if you regularly practice mindfulness or active listening, your brain will become more efficient at regulating emotions and empathizing with others. Practical implications. The more you engage in activities that build emotional intelligence, such as reflecting on your emotions, practicing empathy, or managing stress, the more your brain will adapt to support these skills. This is why consistent effort and practice are key to developing EQ. Emotional intelligence and decision-making. Emotions play a critical role in decision-making, often influencing our choices more than we realize. Here's how emotional intelligence can lead to better decisions. Emotions as data. Emotions provide valuable information about our needs, values, and priorities. For example, feeling anxious about a decision might signal that more information is needed, while feeling excited might indicate alignment with your goals. Emotionally intelligent individuals use this data to make informed, balanced decisions. Avoiding emotional hijacking. When emotions run high, the amygdala can hijack the brain, overriding the prefrontal cortex and leading to impulsive decisions. Emotional intelligence helps you recognize when you're at risk of being hijacked and take steps to regain control, such as taking deep breaths or stepping away from the situation. Balancing logic and emotion. The best decisions often come from a balance of logic and emotion. Emotional intelligence allows you to integrate both, ensuring that your choices are both rational and aligned with your values. Case study: how EI helped a professional handle workplace conflict. Let's look at a real-life example of how emotional intelligence can transform challenging situations. The story of Alex, a project manager. Alex was leading a high-stakes project with a tight deadline. Tensions were running high, and one of his team members, Sarah, became increasingly frustrated with another colleague, Mark. Sarah's frustration escalated into a heated argument during a team meeting, leaving everyone feeling uneasy. Instead of reacting impulsively, Alex used his emotional intelligence to navigate the situation. First, he recognized his own emotions, feeling stressed and overwhelmed, and took a moment to calm himself. Then, he approached Sarah and Mark separately, using empathy to understand their perspectives. Alex discovered that Sarah felt overworked and unsupported, while Mark was unaware of how his actions were affecting the team. By addressing these underlying issues and fostering open communication, Alex was able to resolve the conflict and restore team morale. The project was completed successfully, and the team emerged stronger than ever. Why understanding the science matters. Understanding the science behind emotional intelligence gives us a roadmap for developing and applying these skills in real life. It shows us that emotions are not random or uncontrollable. They are rooted in brain processes that we can learn to manage. Emotional intelligence is a skill that can be developed through practice and effort. By harnessing the power of neuroplasticity, we can rewire our brains to become more emotionally intelligent. Reflection exercise. Think about a recent situation where your emotions influenced a decision. How did your amygdala and prefrontal cortex interact in that moment? What could you have done differently to make a more balanced decision? Real-life applications of emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence isn't just a theoretical concept, it's a practical tool that can transform every aspect of your life. From personal relationships to professional success, EQ plays a critical role in how we connect with others, navigate challenges, and achieve our goals. In this part of the chapter, we'll explore how emotional intelligence can be applied in real-life scenarios, including personal relationships, the workplace, and parenting. EI in personal relationships, managing conflict and improving communication. Personal relationships thrive on emotional connection, empathy, and effective communication. Emotional intelligence can help you build stronger, more meaningful relationships by managing conflict. Conflict is inevitable in any relationship, but EQ can help you navigate it constructively. Instead of reacting defensively or shutting down, emotionally intelligent individuals approach conflict with curiosity and empathy. Example: if your partner is upset, instead of saying you're overreacting, you might say, "I can see that you're really upset. Can you help me understand why?" Improving communication. EQ helps you listen actively and express yourself clearly. It involves paying attention to both verbal and nonverbal cues, such as tone of voice and body language. Example: when a friend shares something personal, instead of interrupting with advice, you might say, "That sounds really tough. How can I support you?" Building trust. Trust is the foundation of any strong relationship. Emotional intelligence helps you build trust by being consistent, reliable, and empathetic. Example: if you make a mistake, owning up to it and apologizing sincerely can strengthen trust. Real life example. A couple I worked with, let's call them Mia and Jake, were struggling with frequent arguments. Mia felt unheard, while Jake felt criticized. By improving their emotional intelligence, practicing active listening, expressing their feelings without blame, and showing empathy, they were able to break the cycle of conflict and rebuild their connection. EI in the workplace: leadership, teamwork, and handling pressure. Emotional intelligence is a game changer in the workplace. It enhances leadership, fosters teamwork, and helps individuals handle stress and pressure. Leadership. Emotionally intelligent leaders inspire and motivate their teams. They are self-aware, empathetic, and skilled at managing emotions, both their own and others. Example: a leader who notices a team member feeling overwhelmed might offer support or adjust workloads to prevent burnout. Teamwork. EQ fosters collaboration and trust within teams. It helps individuals navigate differences, resolve conflicts, and work toward common goals. Example: during a team project, an emotionally intelligent team member might mediate a disagreement by acknowledging everyone's perspectives and finding a compromise. Handling pressure. High-pressure situations can trigger stress and anxiety. Emotional intelligence helps you stay calm, focused, and resilient. Example: a manager facing a tight deadline might use self-regulation techniques such as deep breathing or visualization to stay composed and lead effectively. Developing and enhancing emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is not a fixed trait. It's a skill that can be developed and strengthened over time. Whether you're just starting your journey or looking to refine your existing skills, this part of the chapter will provide you with practical tools, exercises, and strategies to enhance your EQ. By the end, you'll have a roadmap for building greater self-awareness, empathy, and emotional regulation, skills that will serve you in every area of life. Techniques for improving self-awareness and emotional regulation. Self-awareness and emotional regulation are the foundation of emotional intelligence. Here are some techniques to strengthen these skills. Practice mindfulness. Mindfulness involves paying attention to the present moment without judgment. It helps you become more aware of your emotions and how they influence your thoughts and behaviors. Exercise. Spend 5 to 10 minutes each day focusing on your breath. Notice any emotions that arise and observe them without trying to change or suppress them. Keep an emotion journal. Writing about your emotions can help you identify patterns and triggers. It also provides a safe space to process and reflect on your feelings. Exercise. At the end of each day, write down the emotions you experienced, what triggered them, and how you responded. Over time, look for recurring themes. Pause and reflect. When you feel a strong emotion, take a moment to pause and reflect before reacting. Ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Why am I feeling this way? How can I respond in a way that aligns with my goals and values? Exercise. The next time you feel angry or upset, count to 10 before responding. Use this time to collect your thoughts and choose a constructive response. Practical exercises to strengthen EI. Here are some exercises to help you develop each component of emotional intelligence. Self-awareness, body scan meditation. Sit or lie down in a comfortable position. Close your eyes and slowly scan your body from head to toe, noticing any sensations or emotions. This helps you connect with your physical and emotional state. Self-regulation, the 4-7-8 breathing technique. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold your breath for 7 seconds, and exhale for 8 seconds. Repeat this cycle 3 to 4 times to calm your nervous system and regain control of your emotions. Motivation. Set intrinsic goals. Identify goals that align with your values and passions, rather than external rewards. Write down why these goals matter to you and how they contribute to your personal growth. Active listening. During conversations, focus entirely on the speaker. Avoid interrupting or planning your response. Instead, reflect back what you hear and ask open-ended questions to deepen your understanding. Social skills. Practice gratitude. Express appreciation to others regularly. This strengthens relationships and fosters a positive, supportive environment. Overcoming emotional blind spots. Emotional blind spots are areas where we lack self-awareness or struggle to recognize our emotions. Here's how to address them. Seek feedback. Ask trusted friends, family members, or colleagues for honest feedback about your emotional strengths and weaknesses. This can help you identify blind spots and areas for improvement. Challenge assumptions. Reflect on situations where your emotions may have clouded your judgment. Ask yourself, was my reaction based on facts or assumptions? How might someone else perceive this situation? Work with a coach or therapist. A professional can help you uncover blind spots and develop strategies to address them. Case study. A person who overcame emotional challenges through EI training. Let's look at an inspiring example of how emotional intelligence training can transform lives. The story of Emma. Emma was a talented professional who struggled with anxiety and self-doubt. She often felt overwhelmed by her emotions and had difficulty connecting with others. After attending an emotional intelligence workshop, Emma began to practice mindfulness, journaling, and active listening. Over time, she noticed significant changes. She became more self-aware, recognizing when her anxiety was triggered and taking steps to manage it. She also improved her relationships by showing greater empathy and communication skills. Emma's journey didn't just transform her personal life, it also boosted her career. She became a more confident and effective leader, earning the respect and admiration of her colleagues. Why developing EQ is worth the effort. Emotional intelligence is a lifelong journey, but the rewards are immense. By developing your EQ, you can build stronger, more meaningful relationships, navigate challenges with resilience and grace, communicate effectively and resolve conflicts constructively, inspire and influence others, achieve greater personal and professional success. Final reflection. Take a moment to reflect on your emotional intelligence journey. What's one area you'd like to focus on improving? What specific steps can you take to get started? Remember, small, consistent efforts can lead to profound changes over time. Chapter 3, Growth Mindset versus Fixed Mindset, Unlocking Your Potential. Part 1, Core Beliefs and Perspectives. Imagine two students preparing for a challenging exam. The first student believes that intelligence is fixed. You either have it or you don't. They think, if I fail, it means I'm not smart enough. The second student believes that intelligence can grow with effort and practice. They think, if I fail, it means I need to work harder and try a different approach. These two perspectives represent the growth mindset and the fixed mindset, concepts pioneered by psychologist Carol Dweck. Your mindset, the way you view your abilities and potential, can profoundly influence your success, happiness, and resilience. In this first part of Chapter 3, we'll explore the core beliefs and perspectives that define these two mindsets and how they shape the way we approach life. Growth mindset, intelligence and abilities can be developed. At the heart of the growth mindset is the belief that intelligence, talents, and abilities are not fixed traits, but qualities that can be developed through effort, learning, and persistence. People with a growth mindset see challenges as opportunities to grow, failures as valuable lessons, and effort as the path to mastery. Key characteristics of a growth mindset: belief in potential. I can improve with practice and effort. Love of learning. I enjoy the process of learning, even when it's difficult. Resilience. Setbacks are temporary and can be overcome. Openness to feedback. Constructive criticism helps me grow. A real-life example. Consider the story of Michael Jordan, widely regarded as one of the greatest basketball players of all time. Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team, but instead of giving up, he used the setback as motivation to work harder. He famously said, "I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times, I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I've failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed." Jordan's growth mindset allowed him to view failure not as a reflection of his abilities, but as a stepping stone to greatness. Fixed mindset, intelligence, and abilities are innate. In contrast, the fixed mindset is rooted in the belief that intelligence, talents, and abilities are innate and unchangeable. People with a fixed mindset see challenges as threats, failures as proof of inadequacy, and effort as pointless if you don't already have natural talent. Key characteristics of a fixed mindset: belief in limitations. I'm either good at something or I'm not. Fear of failure. If I fail, it means I'm not smart or talented enough. Avoidance of challenges. I'd rather stick to what I know I'm good at. Defensiveness. Criticism is a personal attack. Real life example. A student I once worked with, let's call her Sarah, had a fixed mindset when it came to math. She believed she was just not a math person and avoided challenging problems because she feared failure. This mindset limited her progress and reinforced her belief that she couldn't improve. The science behind mindsets. Carol Dweck's research has shown that mindsets are not just abstract beliefs. They have a tangible impact on how we approach challenges, learn, and grow. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections, supports the growth mindset. When we learn and practice new skills, our brains physically change, becoming more efficient and capable. The role of effort. In a growth mindset, effort is seen as the key to mastery. This aligns with the idea that consistent practice strengthens neural pathways, making skills easier to perform over time. Why mindsets matter. Your mindset shapes how you approach every aspect of life, from education and career to relationships and personal growth. Here's why it matters. Learning and achievement. A growth mindset fosters a love of learning and resilience in the face of challenges, leading to greater achievement. Relationships. A growth mindset encourages openness to feedback and a willingness to work through difficulties, strengthening relationships. Mental health. A growth mindset promotes resilience and reduces the fear of failure, contributing to better mental health. Reflection exercise. Take a moment to reflect on your own mindset. On a scale of 1 to 10, how strongly do you identify with the growth mindset versus the fixed mindset? Think about a recent challenge or failure. How did your mindset influence your response? Response to challenges and failure. Life is full of challenges and setbacks. How we respond to these obstacles often determines whether we grow and succeed or remain stuck and stagnant. In this part of the chapter, we'll explore how the growth mindset and fixed mindset shape our responses to challenges and failure, and why embracing difficulties is key to unlocking our potential. Growth mindset, embracing challenges and learning from failure. Individuals with a growth mindset see challenges as opportunities to learn and grow. They understand that effort and persistence are essential for success, and they view failure not as a reflection of their abilities, but as a stepping stone to improvement. Key characteristics of a growth mindset in action. Embracing challenges. This is tough, but I can learn from it. Persistence. I'll keep trying until I figure it out. From failure, what can I learn from this experience? Resilience. Setbacks are temporary and can be overcome. Real-life example, Thomas Edison, the inventor of the light bulb, is often cited as a quintessential example of the growth mindset. He famously said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." Edison's willingness to embrace failure and persist through challenges ultimately led to one of the most transformative inventions in history. Fixed mindset, avoiding challenges and fearing failure. In contrast, individuals with a fixed mindset tend to avoid challenges and fear failure. They see difficulties as threats to their self-worth and often give up when faced with obstacles. Key characteristics of a fixed mindset in action. Avoiding challenges. This is too hard. I'll just stick to what I know. Giving up easily. If I can't do it right away, I must not be good at it. Fear of failure. If I fail, it means I'm not smart or talented enough. Defensiveness. I'd rather not try than risk failing. Real life example, a student I once worked with, let's call him Alex, had a fixed mindset when it came to public speaking. He avoided opportunities to speak in front of others because he feared making mistakes and being judged. This avoidance reinforced his belief that he wasn't a good speaker and limited his personal and professional growth. The science behind responses to challenges. Research has shown that our mindset influences not only our behavior, but also our brain's response to challenges. Brain activity. Studies using brain imaging have found that individuals with a growth mindset show increased activity in areas associated with learning and problem solving when faced with challenges. In contrast, those with a fixed mindset show heightened activity in areas associated with threat and anxiety. Resilience. A growth mindset fosters resilience by reframing setbacks as opportunities for growth. This positive outlook reduces stress and promotes perseverance. Why embracing challenges matters. Challenges are an inevitable part of life, but how we respond to them can make all the difference. Here's why embracing challenges is crucial. Personal growth. Challenges push us out of our comfort zones and help us develop new skills and abilities. Resilience. Facing and overcoming difficulties builds resilience, making us better equipped to handle future challenges. Achievement. Persistence and effort are key to achieving long-term goals and realizing our potential. Strategies for embracing challenges and learning from failure. Here are some practical strategies to help you adopt a growth mindset and respond to challenges and failure in a positive, constructive way. Reframe challenges as opportunities. Instead of thinking, "This is too hard," try thinking, "This is a chance to learn something new." Example: if you're struggling with a new project at work, remind yourself that mastering it will make you more skilled and confident. Celebrate effort, not just results. Focus on the effort you put in rather than the outcome. This reinforces the idea that effort is the path to mastery. Example: if you didn't achieve your goal, acknowledge the hard work you put in and identify what you learned from the experience. Learn from failure. When you experience failure, ask yourself, what went wrong? What can I learn from this? How can I improve next time? Example: if you didn't get the promotion you wanted, reflect on the feedback you received and create a plan to address any areas for improvement. Practice self-compassion. Be kind to yourself when you face setbacks. Remember that failure is a natural part of the learning process. Example: instead of berating yourself for a mistake, remind yourself that everyone makes mistakes and that this is an opportunity to grow. Case study from fixed to growth mindset. Let's look at an inspiring example of how shifting from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset can transform lives. The story of Maria. Maria was a talented artist who struggled with self-doubt. She avoided entering art competitions because she feared rejection and believed that her talent was fixed. If she wasn't good enough now, she never would be. After learning about the growth mindset, Maria decided to change her approach. She began entering competitions not with the goal of winning, but with the goal of learning and improving. She sought feedback from judges and used it to refine her work. Over time, Maria's skills improved and she started winning awards. More importantly, she developed a love for the creative process and a newfound confidence in her abilities. Reflection exercise. Think about a recent challenge or failure. How did you respond? Did you embrace the challenge and learn from it? Or did you avoid it and feel discouraged? What's one thing you can do differently next time to adopt a growth mindset? Effort, feedback, and success. Effort, feedback, and success are deeply intertwined with our mindset. How we view these elements can either propel us forward or hold us back. In this part of the chapter, we'll explore how the growth mindset and fixed mindset shape our approach to effort, feedback, and success, and how adopting a growth-oriented perspective can help us achieve our goals and reach our full potential. Growth mindset, valuing effort and embracing feedback. Individuals with a growth mindset see effort as the path to mastery and feedback as a tool for improvement. They are inspired by the success of others and view it as proof that growth and achievement are possible. Key characteristics of a growth mindset in action. Effort as the path to mastery. Hard work and practice will help me improve. Embracing feedback. Constructive criticism helps me grow. Inspiration from others. If they can do it, so can I. Focus on learning. Success is about progress, not perfection. Real-life example. Consider the story of J.K. Rowling, the author of the Harry Potter series. Before achieving success, Rowling faced numerous rejections from publishers. Instead of giving up, she used the feedback to refine her work and persisted in her efforts. Her growth mindset and resilience ultimately led to one of the most successful book series in history. Fixed mindset, avoiding effort and resisting feedback. In contrast, individuals with a fixed mindset often see effort as pointless if they don't already have natural talent. They may take feedback personally and feel threatened by the success of others. Key characteristics of a fixed mindset in action. Effort as a sign of weakness. If I have to work hard, it means I'm not talented. Resisting feedback. Criticism is a personal attack. Threatened by others' success. If they succeed, it means I'm not good enough. Focus on perfection. Success is about proving I'm smart or talented. Onheshar, real life example. A colleague of mine, let's call him John, had a fixed mindset when it came to his career. He avoided taking on challenging projects because he feared failure and believed that if he wasn't naturally good at something, there was no point in trying. When he received constructive feedback, he became defensive and dismissed it as unfair criticism. This mindset limited his growth and prevented him from reaching his full potential. The science behind effort and feedback. Research has shown that our mindset influences how we perceive and respond to effort and feedback. Effort and brain development. Studies have found that effort and practice lead to changes in the brain, such as the strengthening of neural connections. This supports the growth mindset idea that effort is the path to mastery. Feedback and learning. Constructive feedback helps us identify areas for improvement and refine our skills. A growth mindset encourages us to see feedback as valuable information rather than a personal attack. Why valuing effort and feedback matters. Effort and feedback are essential for growth and success. Here's why they matter. Skill development. Effort and practice are key to developing new skills and improving existing ones. Continuous improvement. Feedback provides valuable insights that help us refine our work and achieve better results. Resilience. Valuing effort and embracing feedback fosters resilience and a willingness to keep trying, even in the face of setbacks. Strategies for valuing effort and embracing feedback. Here are some practical strategies to help you adopt a growth mindset and make the most of effort and feedback. Reframe effort as a positive. Instead of thinking, if I have to work hard, it means I'm not talented, try thinking, effort is the path to mastery. Example, if you're struggling to learn a new skill, remind yourself that every hour of practice is bringing you closer to your goal. Seek constructive feedback. Actively seek feedback from trusted sources, such as mentors, colleagues, or friends. Example, after completing a project, ask for specific feedback on what you did well and what you can improve. Use feedback to improve. Instead of taking feedback personally, view it as valuable information that can help you grow. Example, if you receive criticism, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I use this feedback to improve? Celebrate progress, not just results. Focus on the progress you're making rather than just the end result. Example, if you're working toward a long-term goal, celebrate small milestones along the way. Case study from fixed to growth mindset. Let's look at an inspiring example of how shifting from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset can transform lives. The story of Emma. Emma was a talented musician who struggled with self-doubt. She avoided performing in front of others because she feared making mistakes and believed that her talent was fixed. If she wasn't good enough now, she never would be. After learning about the growth mindset, Emma decided to change her approach. She began performing regularly, not with the goal of being perfect, but with the goal of learning and improving. She sought feedback from her audience and used it to refine her performances. Over time, Emma's skills improved and she developed a newfound confidence in her abilities. Reflection exercise. Think about a recent situation where you received feedback or faced a challenge. How did you respond? Did you embrace the feedback and use it to improve? Or did you resist it and feel discouraged? What's one thing you can do differently next time to adopt a growth mindset? Chapter 4, Cognitive Dissonance, the Mental Battle Within. Part 1, Understanding Cognitive Dissonance. Imagine this. You've committed to a healthy lifestyle, but after a long, stressful day, you find yourself devouring a bag of chips. As you munch away, a nagging voice in your head whispers, I thought you were eating healthy. What happened? That uncomfortable feeling, the tension between your actions and your beliefs, is cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is the mental discomfort we experience when our actions, beliefs, or attitudes contradict one another. It's a psychological phenomenon that affects everyone, from the choices we make in our personal lives to the decisions we face in our careers. In this first part of Chapter 4, we'll explore what cognitive dissonance is, why it happens, and how it influences our thoughts and behaviors. What is cognitive dissonance? Cognitive dissonance was first introduced by psychologist Leon Festinger in the 1950s. He defined it as the psychological stress we feel when we hold two or more conflicting beliefs, attitudes, or behaviors. To reduce this discomfort, our brains seek consistency, often by changing our beliefs, justifying our actions, or avoiding information that contradicts our views. Example: belief, smoking is bad for my health. Behavior, I smoke a pack of cigarettes every day. Dissonance, the conflict between knowing smoking is harmful and continuing to smoke creates mental discomfort. Why does cognitive dissonance happen? Cognitive dissonance arises because our brains crave consistency. When our actions and beliefs don't align, it creates a sense of unease that we're motivated to resolve. This drive for consistency is rooted in our need to maintain a stable self-image and avoid feelings of hypocrisy or irrationality. Real-life example: a student I once worked with, let's call her Sarah, believed strongly in environmental conservation. However, she frequently used single-use plastic bottles because they were convenient. This contradiction created cognitive dissonance, leaving her feeling guilty and conflicted. How cognitive dissonance influences behavior. Cognitive dissonance can lead to a variety of behaviors as we try to reduce the discomfort it causes. These behaviors often fall into three categories. 1. Changing beliefs or attitudes. To resolve dissonance, we might alter our beliefs to align with our actions. Example: Sarah might convince herself that recycling single-use plastic makes it okay, even though she knows it's not ideal. 2. Justifying actions. We might rationalize our behavior to make it seem more acceptable. Example: a smoker might tell themselves, "I'll quit someday," or "My grandpa smoked and lived to be 90. 3. Avoiding contradictory information. We might ignore or dismiss information that challenges our beliefs. Example: someone who believes a certain diet is healthy might ignore studies showing its negative effects. The role of cognitive dissonance in everyday life. Cognitive dissonance is not just an abstract concept, it plays a significant role in our daily lives. Here are a few ways it manifests. Decision making. After making a difficult decision, we often experience dissonance as we second-guess ourselves. To reduce this discomfort, we tend to focus on the positives of our choice and downplay the negatives. Example: after buying an expensive car, you might emphasize its great features and ignore its high maintenance costs. Cognitive dissonance can arise when our actions conflict with our values or commitments in relationships. Example: if you value honesty but lie to your partner, you might justify it by telling yourself it was to protect their feelings. Self-image. We strive to maintain a positive self-image, and cognitive dissonance often arises when our actions threaten that image. Example: if you see yourself as a kind person but snap at a coworker, you might justify your behavior by blaming stress or their actions. Why understanding cognitive dissonance matters. Cognitive dissonance is a powerful force that shapes our thoughts, behaviors, and decisions. By understanding it, we can become more self-aware and recognize when we're justifying harmful behaviors, make more rational, consistent decisions, reduce stress and mental discomfort by aligning our actions with our values. Reflection exercise. Think about a recent situation where you experienced cognitive dissonance. What conflicting beliefs or actions were involved? How did you resolve the discomfort? Did you change your beliefs, justify your actions, or avoid the issue altogether? Chapter 5: Social Influence, the Power of Conformity and Obedience. Part 1: The Psychology of Social Influence. Have you ever found yourself agreeing with a group opinion even when you privately disagreed, or followed an authority figure's instructions even if they seemed questionable? These behaviors are examples of social influence, the ways in which our thoughts, feelings, and actions are shaped by others. Social influence is a fundamental aspect of human behavior. It helps us navigate social norms, build relationships, and function as part of a community. However, it can also lead to conformity, obedience, and even unethical behavior when taken to extremes. In this first part of Chapter 5, we'll explore the psychology of social influence, its key mechanisms, and why it plays such a powerful role in our lives. What is social influence? Social influence refers to the ways in which individuals change their behavior, attitudes, or beliefs in response to the real or imagined presence of others. It can occur in subtle ways, such as adopting the fashion trends of your peers, or in more overt ways, such as following the orders of an authority figure. Types of social influence. Conformity, adjusting your behavior or beliefs to align with group norms. Obedience, complying with the directives of an authority figure. Compliance, agreeing to a request or suggestion, often due to social pressure. Why does social influence happen? Social influence is rooted in our evolutionary need to belong and survive. As social creatures, humans rely on group cohesion and cooperation for safety, resources, and reproduction. This dependence on others makes us highly sensitive to social cues and norms. Key drivers of social influence. The need to belong. We have an innate desire to fit in and be accepted by others. The need for accuracy. We often look to others for guidance, especially in ambiguous situations. The fear of rejection. The threat of social exclusion or punishment can motivate us to conform. Classic studies in social influence. Some of the most famous experiments in psychology have explored the power of social influence. These studies reveal just how deeply our behavior can be shaped by others. Ash's conformity experiments. In the 1950s, Solomon Asch conducted a series of experiments to study conformity. Participants were asked to match the length of a line to one of three comparison lines. While the task was simple, the catch was that the other participants, who were actually Confederates, intentionally gave the wrong answer. Results: about 75% of participants conformed to the group's incorrect answer at least once, even when they knew it was wrong. Takeaway: the desire to fit in can override our own judgment. Milgram's obedience experiments. Stanley Milgram's infamous experiments in the 1960s examined obedience to authority. Participants were instructed to administer electric shocks to a learner who was actually an actor whenever they answered a question incorrectly. Despite the learner's apparent distress, many participants continued to administer shocks when urged by the experimenter. 65% of participants administered the maximum voltage, even when they expressed discomfort. Takeaway: authority figures can exert significant influence, even when their directives conflict with our moral values. Real-life examples of social influence. Social influence isn't confined to the lab, it plays out in our everyday lives. Here are a few examples. Fashion trends. People often adopt clothing styles, hairstyles, or behaviors that are popular within their social group. Wearing a certain brand because it's trendy, even if it's not your personal style. Workplace dynamics. Employees may conform to workplace norms, such as working long hours or avoiding conflict, even if they disagree with these practices. Example: staying late at the office because everyone else does, even if you've finished your work. Social media. Platforms like Instagram and TikTok amplify social influence by creating trends and encouraging users to conform to popular behaviors. Example: participating in viral challenges or buying products endorsed by influencers. Why? Understanding social influence matters. Social influence is a double-edged sword. While it helps us build connections and navigate social norms, it can also lead to harmful behaviors, such as groupthink, peer pressure, and blind obedience. By understanding how social influence works, we can recognize when we're being influenced and make more conscious choices. Resist harmful forms of conformity and obedience. Use social influence positively, such as inspiring others to adopt healthy or ethical behaviors. Reflection exercise. Think about a time when you were influenced by others. Was it conformity, obedience, or compliance? How did it affect your behavior or decisions? What could you have done differently to make a more independent choice? The dark side of social influence: groupthink and blind obedience. While social influence can foster cooperation and harmony, it also has a darker side. When taken to extremes, it can lead to groupthink, where the desire for consensus overrides critical thinking, and blind obedience, where individuals follow authority figures without question, even when their actions are harmful. In this part of the chapter, we'll explore these phenomena, their consequences, and how to resist them. Groupthink, the danger of unquestioned consensus. Groupthink occurs when a group prioritizes harmony and conformity over critical thinking and dissent. This often happens in cohesive groups where members value getting along more than making the best decision. Key characteristics of groupthink: illusion of invulnerability. We can't fail because we're all in agreement. Self-censorship. Members withhold dissenting opinions to avoid conflict. Pressure to conform. Those who disagree are seen as disloyal or disruptive. Illusion of unanimity. Silence is mistaken for agreement. Life example. One of the most famous examples of groupthink is the Bay of Pigs invasion in 1961. President John F. Kennedy and his advisors unanimously approved a plan to invade Cuba, despite numerous red flags. Dissenting opinions were suppressed, and the group's desire for consensus led to a disastrous outcome. Blind obedience, following orders without question. Blind obedience occurs when individuals follow the directives of an authority figure without considering the morality or consequences of their actions. This phenomenon was famously demonstrated in Stanley Milgram's obedience experiments, where participants administered what they believed were painful electric shocks to others simply because an authority figure told them to. Key characteristics of blind obedience: deference to authority, they must know what they're doing. Moral disengagement, I'm just following orders. Lack of critical thinking, failure to question the legitimacy or ethics of the directive. Real-life example. The Nazi regime during World War II is a chilling example of blind obedience. Many individuals participated in atrocities, not out of personal malice, but because they were following orders from authority figures. The consequences of groupthink and blind obedience. Both groupthink and blind obedience can have devastating consequences, including poor decision-making. Critical information is ignored, and alternatives are not considered. Ethical failures. Individuals may engage in harmful behaviors without questioning their morality. Loss of individuality. People suppress their own beliefs and values to conform to the group or authority. How to resist groupthink and blind obedience. While social influence is powerful, it's not inevitable. Here are some strategies to resist groupthink and blind obedience. Encourage dissent. Foster an environment where differing opinions are valued and encouraged. Example, appoint a devil's advocate to challenge the group's assumptions. Question authority. Don't blindly follow orders. Consider the ethics and consequences of your actions. Example, if a directive feels wrong, ask for clarification or express your concerns. Promote critical thinking. Encourage individuals to think independently and critically evaluate information. Example, use structured decision-making processes such as pros and cons lists or scenario analysis. Seek diverse perspectives. Include individuals with different backgrounds and viewpoints in decision-making processes. Example, invite external experts or stakeholders to provide input. Case study, resisting groupthink in the workplace. Let's look at an example of how a company successfully resisted groupthink. The story of a tech startup. A tech startup was developing a new product and faced a tight deadline. The team was highly cohesive, and initial discussions were dominated by a few vocal members who pushed for a specific design. However, the CEO noticed that quieter team members seemed hesitant and decided to take action. She implemented a round-robin approach where each team member had to share their thoughts without interruption. This revealed several concerns about the design that had been overlooked. By encouraging dissent and valuing diverse perspectives, the team was able to identify potential flaws and develop a better product. Reflection exercise. Think about a time when you were part of a group or faced pressure from an authority figure. Did you experience groupthink or blind obedience? How did it affect the outcome? What could you have done differently to resist these pressures? Chapter 6. The Power of Habit, Rewiring Your Daily Life. Part 1. The Science of Habit Formation. Imagine waking up every morning and effortlessly following a routine that sets you up for success. You exercise, eat a healthy breakfast, and tackle your most important tasks without procrastination. Sounds ideal, right? The key to making this a reality lies in understanding habits, the automatic behaviors that shape much of our daily lives. Habits are powerful because they free up mental energy by automating repetitive tasks. However, they can also work against us when they're unhealthy or unproductive. In this first part of Chapter 6, we'll explore the science of habit formation, how habits work, and why they're so difficult to change. What are habits? Habits are behaviors that become automatic through repetition. They are triggered by specific cues, performed with little conscious thought, and reinforced by rewards. The habit loop. Charles Duhigg, author of The Power of Habit, describes habits as a three-step loop. Cue, a trigger that tells your brain to go into autopilot. Routine, the behavior itself, which can be physical, mental, or emotional. Reward, the positive outcome that reinforces the behavior. Example, feeling stressed. Routine, eating a piece of chocolate. Reward, temporary relief from stress. Why are habits so powerful? Habits are powerful because they operate below the level of conscious thought. Once a habit is formed, the brain stops fully participating in decision-making, making the behavior automatic and efficient. The role of the brain. Basal ganglia. This part of the brain plays a key role in habit formation. It stores habits and allows us to perform them without conscious effort. Prefrontal cortex. This part of the brain is responsible for decision-making and self-control. When a habit is triggered, the prefrontal cortex goes into a kind of sleep mode, conserving energy. How habits are formed. Habits are formed through a process called chunking, where the brain converts a sequence of actions into an automatic routine. This process involves three stages. 1. Cue identification. The brain identifies a trigger that signals the start of a routine. 2. Routine execution. The behavior is performed, often with little conscious thought. 3. Reward reinforcement. The brain receives a reward which strengthens the habit loop. Example, cue, your phone buzzes with a notification. Routine, you check your phone. Reward, you feel a sense of connection or entertainment. Why are habits hard to change? Habits are deeply ingrained in our neural pathways, making them difficult to change. However, understanding the habit loop gives us a roadmap for breaking bad habits and forming new ones. Challenges in changing habits. Automaticity. Habits are performed without conscious thought, making them hard to interrupt. Cravings. The brain becomes wired to anticipate the reward, creating a craving that drives the habit. Environmental triggers. Cues in our environment can trigger habits without us realizing it. Real-life example. The power of habits. Let's look at a real-life example of how habits can shape behavior. The story of Lisa. Lisa wanted to start exercising regularly, but struggled to stick to a routine. She identified her habit loop. Cue, coming home from work feeling tired. Routine, sitting on the couch and watching TV. Reward, relaxation and escape from stress. To change her habit, Lisa replaced the routine while keeping the same cue and reward. Cue, coming home from work feeling tired. New routine, doing a 10-minute yoga session. Reward, relaxation and a sense of accomplishment. Over time, Lisa's new habit became automatic, and she gradually increased the duration of her workouts. Why understanding habits matters. Habits shape our lives in profound ways, influencing our health, productivity, and relationships. By understanding how habits work, we can break unhealthy habits and replace them with positive ones, create routines that support our goals and values, free up mental energy for more important tasks. Reflection exercise. Think about a habit you'd like to change or create. What is the cue, routine, and reward for this habit? How can you modify the habit loop to make it work for you? Breaking bad habits and creating new ones. Breaking bad habits and forming new ones can feel like an uphill battle. Whether it's quitting smoking, reducing screen time, or starting a daily exercise routine, changing behavior requires more than just willpower. It requires a strategic approach. In this part of the chapter, we'll explore practical strategies for breaking bad habits, creating new ones, and making lasting changes in your life. Why breaking bad habits is hard. Bad habits are hard to break because they are deeply ingrained in our neural pathways. The brain forms habits to conserve energy, making them automatic and difficult to interrupt. Additionally, habits are often tied to emotional rewards, such as stress relief or comfort, which can make them even more challenging to overcome. Common challenges: cravings. The brain anticipates the reward, creating a strong urge to perform the habit. Environmental triggers. Cues in your environment, such as seeing a pack of cigarettes or feeling bored, can trigger the habit. Emotional dependence. Habits often serve as coping mechanisms for stress, anxiety, or other emotions. Strategies for breaking bad habits. Here are some practical strategies to help you break bad habits. Identify the habit loop. Understand the cue, routine, and reward that drive your habit. Example: if you snack late at night, identify the cue: boredom, routine, eating chips, and reward, temporary satisfaction. Replace the routine. Keep the same cue and reward, but replace the routine with a healthier behavior. Example: instead of eating chips, try drinking herbal tea or doing a quick stretch. Remove triggers. Change your environment to reduce exposure to cues that trigger the habit. If you want to reduce screen time, keep your phone in another room during meals or before bed. Practice mindfulness. Pay attention to the thoughts and feelings that drive your habit. This can help you interrupt the automatic behavior. Example: when you feel the urge to check social media, pause and ask yourself, why do I want to do this right now? Start small. Break the habit into smaller, manageable steps. This reduces the feeling of overwhelm and increases your chances of success. Example: if you want to quit smoking, start by reducing the number of cigarettes you smoke each day. Check strategies for creating new habits. Forming new habits requires consistency, patience, and a clear plan. Here's how to make it easier. Set clear goals. Define what you want to achieve and why it matters to you. Example: I want to exercise for 30 minutes every day to improve my health and energy levels. Use implementation intentions. Plan when, where, and how you will perform the new habit. Example: I will go for a run every morning at 7 a.m. after brushing my teeth. Stack habits. Link the new habit to an existing one to make it easier to remember. Example: after I pour my morning coffee, I will meditate for 5 minutes. Track your progress. Use a habit tracker or journal to monitor your consistency and celebrate small wins. Example: mark an X on a calendar for each day you complete your new habit. Reward yourself. Reinforce the new habit with a reward that motivates you. Example: treat yourself to a favorite snack or activity after completing a week of consistent exercise. Real-life example: breaking a bad habit. Let's look at a real-life example of how someone successfully broke a bad habit. The story of Mark. Mark had a habit of biting his nails whenever he felt anxious. To break this habit, he identified the habit loop. Cue: feeling anxious. Routine: biting his nails. Reward: temporary relief from anxiety. Replaced the routine. Instead of biting his nails, he started squeezing a stress ball. Removed triggers. He kept his hands busy by fidgeting with a pen or playing with a rubber band. Practiced mindfulness. When he felt the urge to bite his nails, he paused and took a few deep breaths. Over time, Mark's new habit became automatic and he was able to stop biting his nails entirely. Real-life example: creating a new habit. Now, let's look at how someone successfully created a new habit. The story of Sarah. Sarah wanted to start a daily meditation practice but struggled to stay consistent. To make it easier, she set a clear goal. I will meditate for 10 minutes every morning to reduce stress and improve focus. Used implementation intentions. I will meditate at 7 a.m. after I brush my teeth. Stacked habits. She linked meditation to her existing morning routine. Tracked her progress. She used a habit tracker app to mark each day she meditated. Rewarded herself. After a week of consistent meditation, she treated herself to a relaxing bath. Within a month, meditation became a natural part of Sarah's daily routine. Why breaking and creating habits matters. Habits shape our lives in profound ways, influencing our health, productivity, and happiness. By breaking bad habits and creating new ones, we can improve our physical and mental well-being, achieve our goals, and live in alignment with our values, Free up mental energy for more meaningful pursuits. Reflection exercise. Think about a bad habit you'd like to break or a new habit you'd like to create. What is the habit loop for this behavior? What strategies can you use to change it? Write down a plan and commit to taking the first step today. Chapter 7: Delayed Gratification and Self-Control. The Marshmallow Test Revisited. Part 1: The Science of Delayed Gratification. Imagine a child sitting at a table with a marshmallow in front of them. They're told that if they can resist eating it for 15 minutes, they'll get 2 marshmallows instead. This classic experiment, known as the marshmallow test, has become a symbol of self-control and delayed gratification. But what does it really tell us about human behavior, and how can we apply these lessons to our own lives? In this first part of Chapter 7, we'll explore the science of delayed gratification, why it's so difficult to resist temptation, and how it impacts our long-term success and well-being. What is delayed gratification? Delayed gratification is the ability to resist an immediate reward in favor of a larger or more meaningful reward in the future. It's a key component of self-control and is closely linked to success in areas like education, career, and health. Key concepts: immediate reward, a small short-term reward that is tempting but less valuable. Delayed reward, a larger long-term reward that requires patience and self-control. Example: immediate reward, eating a piece of cake now. Delayed reward, maintaining a healthy diet and achieving long-term fitness goals. The Marshmallow Test, a landmark study. The marshmallow test was conducted by psychologist Walter Mischel in the 1960s. In the experiment, children were given a choice: eat 1 marshmallow now or wait 15 minutes and receive 2 marshmallows. The study aimed to measure self-control and its impact on future outcomes. Findings: children who were able to delay gratification tended to have better life outcomes, including higher academic achievement, better social skills, and lower rates of substance abuse. The ability to delay gratification was linked to greater self-control, patience, and long-term thinking. Limitations: later research has shown that factors like socioeconomic status and environment also play a significant role in a child's ability to delay gratification. Self-control is not fixed, it can be developed and strengthened over time. Why is delayed gratification hard? Delayed gratification is challenging because our brains are wired to prioritize immediate rewards. This tendency, known as temporal discounting, makes it difficult to resist temptation and focus on long-term goals. Key factors: impulse control. Resisting immediate rewards requires strong impulse control, which can be mentally taxing. Emotional regulation. Emotions like stress, boredom, or frustration can make it harder to delay gratification. Environmental cues. Temptations in our environment, such as junk food or social media notifications, can trigger impulsive behavior. The role of the brain in delayed gratification. Delayed gratification involves a battle between 2 brain systems. The limbic system. This part of the brain is responsible for emotions and impulses. It prioritizes immediate rewards and drives us to seek pleasure. The prefrontal cortex. This part of the brain is responsible for rational thinking, planning, and self-control. It helps us resist temptation and focus on long-term goals. When we delay gratification, the prefrontal cortex overrides the limbic system, allowing us to make decisions that align with our long-term goals. Real-life example: delayed gratification in action. Let's look at a real-life example of how delayed gratification can lead to success. The story of Maria. Maria wanted to save money for a down payment on a house, but she loved shopping and often spent her paycheck on clothes and gadgets. To achieve her goal, she set a clear goal: I will save $10,000 in 2 years. Created a budget. She tracked her expenses and identified areas where she could cut back. Resisted temptation. When she felt the urge to shop, she reminded herself of her long-term goal. Celebrated milestones. She rewarded herself with small treats when she reached savings milestones. By practicing delayed gratification, Maria was able to save enough money for her down payment and achieve her dream of homeownership. Why delayed gratification matters. Delayed gratification is a powerful predictor of success and well-being. By developing this skill, we can achieve long-term goals such as saving money, advancing in our careers, or improving our health. Build resilience and self-control, which are essential for navigating life's challenges. Make decisions that align with our values and priorities. Reflection exercise. Think about a situation where you struggled with delayed gratification. What was the immediate reward and what was the delayed reward? How did you handle the temptation? What strategies could you use to improve your self-control in the future? Strengthening self-control and mastering delayed gratification. Delayed gratification is a skill that can be developed and strengthened with practice. While it may feel challenging at first, there are proven strategies to help you resist temptation, stay focused on your long-term goals, and build greater self-control. In this part of the chapter, we'll explore practical techniques for mastering delayed gratification and applying it to various areas of your life. Strategies for strengthening self-control. Self-control is like a muscle. It can be strengthened with consistent effort and the right strategies. Here are some practical ways to build your self-control and improve your ability to delay gratification. Set clear goals. Define what you want to achieve and why it matters to you. Having a clear purpose makes it easier to resist temptation. Example, I want to save $5,000 for a vacation because I value experiences over material things. Break goals into smaller steps. Large goals can feel overwhelming, making it harder to stay motivated. Break them into smaller, manageable steps. Example, instead of saving $5,000 all at once, aim to save $100 per week. Use implementation intentions. Plan when, where, and how you will take action toward your goal. This reduces decision fatigue and makes it easier to stay on track. Example, I will save $50 from every paycheck by transferring it to my savings account immediately after I get paid. Remove temptations. Change your environment to reduce exposure to triggers that make it harder to resist temptation. Example, if you're trying to eat healthier, remove junk food from your home and stock up on nutritious snacks. Pay attention to your thoughts and feelings without judgment. This can help you recognize impulses and choose how to respond. Example, when you feel the urge to spend money impulsively, pause and ask yourself, do I really need this, or am I just feeling bored or stressed? Reward yourself strategically. Reinforce your progress with small rewards that don't undermine your long-term goals. Example, if you stick to your savings plan for a month, treat yourself to a small indulgence like a movie night at home. The role of habits in delayed gratification. Habits can either support or undermine your ability to delay gratification. By building habits that align with your long-term goals, you can make self-control easier and more automatic. Example, if your goal is to exercise regularly, create a habit of working out at the same time every day. Over time, the habit will become automatic, reducing the need for willpower. Real-life example, mastering delayed gratification. Let's look at a real-life example of how someone used these strategies to master delayed gratification. The story of James. James wanted to quit smoking and save money for a new car. He knew it would be challenging, but he was determined to succeed. Here's how he did it. Set clear goals. I will quit smoking and save $3,000 for a down payment on a car within a year. Broke goals into smaller steps. He reduced his smoking gradually, cutting back by 1 cigarette per week. He saved $250 per month by cutting unnecessary expenses. Used implementation intentions. He planned to exercise whenever he felt the urge to smoke. He automated his savings by setting up a direct deposit into a separate account. Removed temptations. He avoided places where people smoked and removed all cigarettes from his home. Practiced mindfulness. When he felt the urge to smoke, he paused and focused on his breathing until the craving passed. Rewarded himself strategically. He celebrated milestones such as 1 month smoke-free with small rewards like a new book or a nice dinner. By using these strategies, James successfully quit smoking and saved enough money for his new car. Applying delayed gratification to different areas of life. Delayed gratification is a versatile skill that can be applied to various aspects of life. Here are some examples. Health and fitness. Resist the temptation to skip workouts or eat unhealthy foods in favor of long-term health benefits. Example, choose a salad over fast food to support your fitness goals. Finances. Save money instead of spending it impulsively to achieve financial security and long term goals. Example, contribute to a retirement account instead of buying luxury items. Career, invest time in learning new skills or taking on challenging projects to advance your career. Example, spend evenings taking an online course instead of watching TV. Relationships, prioritize meaningful connections over superficial interactions. Example, spend quality time with loved ones instead of scrolling through social media. Why mastering delayed gratification matters. Mastering delayed gratification is a key ingredient for success and well being. By developing this skill, you can achieve long term goals and create a more fulfilling life, build resilience and self control, which are essential for navigating challenges, make decisions that align with your values and priorities. Think about a long term goal you're working toward. What temptations or challenges are standing in your way? What strategies can you use to strengthen your self control and stay focused on your goal? Write down a plan and commit to taking the first step today. Chapter 8, The Fundamental Attribution Error, Seeing the Bigger Picture. Chit, understanding the fundamental attribution error. Imagine you're driving to work and someone cuts you off in traffic. Your first thought might be, what a rude driver. But what if that person was rushing to the hospital because of an emergency? This tendency to attribute someone's behavior to their personality rather than their circumstances is known as the fundamental attribution error. The fundamental attribution error is a cognitive bias that affects how we judge others and interpret their actions. In this first part of Chapter 8, we'll explore what this bias is, why it happens, and how it influences our relationships and decision-making. What is the fundamental attribution error? The fundamental attribution error, FAE, is the tendency to overemphasize personality traits and underestimate situational factors when explaining someone else's behavior. In other words, we often assume that people act the way they do because of who they are, rather than considering the context or circumstances they're in. Key concepts. Dispositional attribution, explaining behavior based on someone's personality or character. Situational attribution, explaining behavior based on external factors or circumstances. Example, dispositional attribution, he's late because he's lazy and irresponsible. Situational attribution, he's late because there was unexpected traffic. Why does the fundamental attribution error happen? The fundamental attribution error occurs because of the way our brains process information. Here are some reasons why it happens. Cognitive efficiency. Our brains rely on shortcuts to process information quickly. It's easier to attribute behavior to personality traits than to consider complex situational factors. Focus on the individual. When we observe someone's behavior, we tend to focus on the person rather than the context. This makes it easier to overlook situational influences. Cultural factors. In individualistic cultures like the US, people are more likely to emphasize personal responsibility and traits. In collectivist cultures, situational factors are given more weight. The impact of the fundamental attribution error. The fundamental attribution error can have significant consequences in our personal and professional lives. Here's how it affects us. Misjudging others. We may unfairly label someone as rude, lazy, or incompetent without considering the circumstances. Example, assuming a coworker is unproductive because they're lazy, when in reality, they're dealing with a personal crisis. Damaging relationships. Misattributing behavior can lead to misunderstandings, conflicts, and damaged relationships. Example, assuming a friend is ignoring you because they don't care when they're actually overwhelmed with work. Biased decision-making. The FAE can influence decisions in hiring, performance evaluations, and conflict resolution. Example, a manager might overlook a candidate's potential because of a single mistake during an interview. Real-life example, the fundamental attribution error in action. Let's look at a real-life example of how the fundamental attribution error can play out. The story of Sarah and Mark. Sarah and Mark were co-workers on a project. Mark missed a deadline, and Sarah immediately thought, he's so irresponsible and unreliable. She didn't consider that Mark had been dealing with a family emergency and was doing his best to balance work and personal life. When Sarah learned about Mark's situation, she felt guilty for jumping to conclusions. She realized that her initial judgment was unfair and that she had fallen victim to the fundamental attribution error. Why understanding the FAE matters. Understanding the fundamental attribution error is crucial because it helps us develop empathy and compassion for others, avoid misjudgments and conflicts in our relationships, make fairer and more informed decisions. Reflection exercise. Think about a recent situation where you judged someone's behavior. Did you attribute their actions to their personality or the situation? How might your perspective change if you considered situational factors? In the next part of this chapter, we'll explore strategies for overcoming the fundamental attribution error and seeing the bigger picture. Chapter 9, Positive Reinforcement and Reward Systems, Motivating Yourself and Others. The Power of Positive Reinforcement. Imagine a world where every effort you made was recognized and rewarded. How would that change your motivation, confidence, and willingness to take on new challenges? This is the essence of positive reinforcement, a powerful tool for shaping behavior and fostering growth. Positive reinforcement is a concept rooted in behavioral psychology that involves rewarding desired behaviors to increase the likelihood of them being repeated. In this first part of Chapter 9, we'll explore what positive reinforcement is, how it works, and why it's such an effective way to motivate yourself and others. What is positive reinforcement? What is positive reinforcement? Positive reinforcement is the process of rewarding a behavior to encourage its repetition. The reward can be anything that the individual finds motivating, such as praise, recognition, or tangible rewards. Key behavior: the action or response you want to encourage. Reward: the positive consequence that follows the behavior. Reinforcement: the increase in the likelihood of the behavior being repeated. Example: behavior: a child completes their homework. Reward: the parent praises the child and gives them a small treat. Reinforcement: the child is more likely to complete their homework in the future. How positive reinforcement works. Positive reinforcement works by creating a positive association between a behavior and its outcome. When a behavior is followed by a reward, the brain releases dopamine, a neurotransmitter associated with pleasure and motivation. This reinforces the behavior and makes it more likely to be repeated. The reinforcement loop: behavior: the individual performs a desired action. Reward: the behavior is followed by a positive consequence. Reinforcement: the individual is motivated to repeat the behavior. Why positive reinforcement is effective. Positive reinforcement is one of the most effective ways to shape behavior because it builds motivation. Rewards create a sense of accomplishment and encourage individuals to keep trying. Boosts confidence. Recognizing effort and achievement helps build self-esteem and confidence. Strengthens relationships. Positive reinforcement fosters trust and connection, whether in personal relationships, parenting, or the workplace. Encourages growth. By focusing on what's working, positive reinforcement creates a cycle of continuous improvement. Real-life example: positive reinforcement in action. Let's look at a real-life example of how positive reinforcement can transform behavior. The story of Emma. Emma was a manager at a tech company who noticed that her team was struggling with low morale and productivity. Instead of focusing on what was going wrong, she decided to use positive reinforcement to motivate her team. Behavior: team members completed tasks on time or went above and beyond. Reward: Emma publicly praised their efforts during team meetings and gave small rewards like gift cards or extra break time. Reinforcement: team members felt valued and motivated, leading to increased productivity and a more positive work environment. Types of rewards in positive reinforcement. Rewards can take many forms depending on what the individual finds motivating. Here are some common types of rewards. Verbal praise: a simple "great job" or "I'm proud of you" can be highly motivating. Tangible rewards: gifts, treats, or bonuses can reinforce behavior. Recognition: public acknowledgement such as awards or shout-outs can boost motivation. Privileges: extra break time, flexible hours, or other privileges can serve as rewards. Intrinsic rewards: the satisfaction of achieving a goal or mastering a skill can be its own reward. Why understanding positive reinforcement matters. Positive reinforcement is a powerful tool for shaping behavior and fostering growth. By understanding how it works, you can motivate yourself and others to achieve goals, build confidence and self esteem, create positive, supportive environments in your personal and professional life. Reflection exercise. Think about a behavior you'd like to encourage in yourself or someone else. What reward could you use to reinforce this behavior? How can you incorporate positive reinforcement into your daily routine? Chapter 10: The Psychology of Stress and Coping Mechanisms, Thriving Under Pressure. Part 1: Understanding Stress and Its Impact. Stress is an inevitable part of life. Whether it's a looming deadline, a difficult conversation, or a major life change, stress can feel overwhelming and all consuming. But what exactly is stress, and how does it affect our minds and bodies? In this first part of Chapter 10, we'll explore the psychology of stress, its causes, and its impact on our mental and physical well being. What is stress? Stress is the body's natural response to perceived threats or challenges. It's a survival mechanism that prepares us to face danger, often referred to as the fight or flight response. While stress can be helpful in short bursts, chronic stress can take a toll on our health and well being. Key concepts: eustress, positive stress that motivates and energizes us, e.g., preparing for a presentation. Distress, negative stress that overwhelms and exhausts us, e.g., dealing with a toxic work environment. The biology of stress. When we encounter a stressor, our body undergoes a series of physiological changes to help us respond effectively. These changes are orchestrated by the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal HPA axis. Alarm stage. The brain perceives a threat and activates the HPA axis. The adrenal glands release stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. Heart rate, blood pressure, and energy levels increase. Resistance stage. The body attempts to adapt to the stressor and restore balance. If the stressor persists, the body remains on high alert. Exhaustion stage. Prolonged stress depletes the body's resources, leading to fatigue, burnout, and health problems. The impact of chronic stress. While acute stress can be beneficial, chronic stress has serious consequences for our mental and physical health. Physical effects: weakened immune system, increased risk of heart disease, high blood pressure, and diabetes, digestive issues and sleep disturbances. Mental effects: anxiety and depression, difficulty concentrating and making decisions, irritability and mood swings. Behavioral effects: overeating or loss of appetite, substance abuse or reliance on unhealthy coping mechanisms, social withdrawal and relationship strain. Common sources of stress. Stress can arise from various sources, including work, deadlines, conflicts, and job insecurity. Relationships, conflicts, breakups, and family dynamics. Life changes, moving, starting a new job, or losing a loved one. Financial pressures, debt, bills, and economic uncertainty. Health issues, chronic illness, injury, or caregiving responsibilities. Real-life example: the impact of stress. Let's look at a real-life example of how stress can affect someone's life. The story of Alex. Alex was a high-achieving professional who prided himself on his ability to handle pressure. However, over time, the constant demands of his job began to take a toll. He experienced frequent headaches, difficulty sleeping, and irritability. Despite these warning signs, Alex pushed through, believing he could tough it out. Eventually, Alex reached a breaking point. He was diagnosed with burnout and had to take a leave of absence from work. This experience forced him to reevaluate his approach to stress and prioritize his well-being. Why understanding stress matters. Understanding stress is the first step toward managing it effectively. By recognizing the signs and sources of stress, you can take proactive steps to reduce its impact, develop healthier coping mechanisms, improve your overall quality of life. Reflection exercise. Think about a recent situation that caused you stress. How did it affect you physically, mentally, and emotionally? What coping mechanisms did you use, and were they effective? Part 2: Managing stress and building resilience. Stress is an unavoidable part of life, but how we respond to it makes all the difference. While we can't always control the stressors we face, we can control how we manage them. In this part of Chapter 10, we'll explore practical strategies for managing stress, building resilience, and thriving under pressure. Strategies for managing stress. Effective stress management involves a combination of proactive and reactive strategies. Here are some proven techniques to help you cope with stress. Identify and address stressors. The first step in managing stress is identifying its sources. Keep a stress journal to track what triggers your stress and how you respond. Example: if work deadlines are a major stressor, consider breaking tasks into smaller steps or delegating when possible. Practice mindfulness and relaxation techniques. Mindfulness helps you stay present and reduce the impact of stress. Techniques like deep breathing, meditation, and progressive muscle relaxation can calm your mind and body. Example: try the 4-7-8 breathing technique. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 7 seconds, exhale for 8 seconds. Maintain a healthy lifestyle. Regular exercise, a balanced diet, and adequate sleep are essential for managing stress. Physical activity in particular releases endorphins that boost mood and reduce stress. Example: aim for 30 minutes of moderate exercise, such as walking or yoga, most days of the week. Set boundaries and prioritize self-care. Learn to say no to unnecessary commitments and prioritize activities that bring you joy and relaxation. Example: schedule regular me time for hobbies, reading, or spending time with loved ones. Seek social support. Connecting with others can provide emotional support and perspective. Share your feelings with trusted friends, family, or a therapist. Example: join a support group or schedule regular check-ins with a close friend. Reframe negative thoughts. Cognitive restructuring involves challenging and replacing negative thoughts with more positive or realistic ones. Example: instead of thinking "I'll never get this done," try "I'll take it one step at a time and do my best." Building resilience. The key to thriving under pressure. Resilience is the ability to bounce back from adversity and adapt to challenging situations. It's not about avoiding stress, but about developing the skills to cope with it effectively. Here's how to build resilience. Cultivate a growth mindset. View challenges as opportunities for growth rather than threats. Focus on what you can learn from difficult experiences. Example: after a setback, ask yourself, what can I learn from this and how can I improve? And develop problem-solving skills. Break problems into manageable steps and focus on solutions rather than dwelling on the problem. Example: use the 5 whys technique to identify the root cause of a problem and brainstorm solutions. Practice gratitude. Focusing on what you're grateful for can shift your perspective and reduce stress. Example: keep a gratitude journal and write down 3 things you're thankful for each day. And build a strong support network. Surround yourself with positive, supportive people who encourage and uplift you. Example: strengthen relationships by regularly expressing appreciation and offering support. Take care of your physical health. A healthy body supports a healthy mind. Prioritize sleep, nutrition, and exercise to build resilience. Example: create a bedtime routine to improve sleep quality and reduce stress. Real-life example: building resilience. Let's look at a real-life example of how someone built resilience and managed stress effectively. Sarah was a single mother juggling a demanding job and raising 2 young children. She often felt overwhelmed and exhausted, but she was determined to create a better life for her family. To manage stress and build resilience, Sarah identified stressors. She realized that her lack of time for herself was a major source of stress. Set boundaries. She started saying no to extra work assignments and delegated household tasks to her children. Practiced self-care. She scheduled regular me time for reading and yoga. Sought support. She joined a single parent support group and leaned on her family for help. Focused on gratitude. She kept a gratitude journal and reminded herself of the positive aspects of her life. Over time, Sarah became more resilient and better equipped to handle life's challenges. Managing stress and building resilience matters. Stress is a natural part of life, but it doesn't have to control you. By managing stress and building resilience, you can improve your mental and physical health, enhance your ability to cope with challenges, create a more balanced and fulfilling life. Reflection exercise. Think about a current source of stress in your life. What strategies can you use to manage it? How can you build resilience to handle future challenges? Write down a plan and commit to taking the first step today. In the final part of this chapter, we'll explore how to create a personalized stress management plan and integrate these strategies into your daily life. Part 3, creating a personalized stress management plan. Managing stress and building resilience isn't a one-size-fits-all process. What works for one person may not work for another. The key is to create a personalized stress management plan that fits your unique needs, preferences, and lifestyle. In this final part of Chapter 10, we'll guide you through the steps to design a plan that helps you thrive under pressure. Step 1, assess your stressors. The first step in creating a stress management plan is identifying the sources of your stress. Take some time to reflect on the following questions. What situations or people tend to trigger your stress? How do you typically respond to stress physically, emotionally, and behaviorally? Are there patterns or recurring themes in your stress? Exercise. Keep a stress journal for a week. Write down the situations that cause stress, how you feel, and how you respond. This will help you identify patterns and prioritize areas for improvement. Step 2, choose your coping strategies. Based on your stress assessment, select coping strategies that resonate with you. Consider a mix of proactive, preventing stress, and reactive, managing stress in the moment techniques. Proactive strategies. Time management. Prioritize tasks, set realistic goals, and avoid overcommitting. Healthy lifestyle. Exercise regularly, eat a balanced diet, and get enough sleep. Mindfulness practices. Incorporate meditation, deep breathing, or yoga into your routine. Reactive strategies. Relaxation techniques. Use deep breathing, progressive muscle relaxation, or visualization to calm your mind and body. Social support. Reach out to friends, family, or a therapist for emotional support. Cognitive reframing. Challenge negative thoughts and replace them with more positive or realistic ones. Exercise. Create a list of coping strategies that appeal to you. For example, morning yoga and meditation, weekly check-ins with a close friend, daily gratitude journaling. Step 3. Set realistic goals. Setting realistic, achievable goals is essential for staying motivated and making progress. Use the SMART framework to guide your goal setting. Specific, clearly define what you want to achieve. Measurable. Track your progress with tangible metrics. Achievable. Set goals that are challenging but realistic. Relevant. Ensure your goals align with your values and priorities. Time-bound. Set a deadline to create a sense of urgency. Example, instead of saying, I want to reduce stress, set a SMART goal, like, I will practice deep breathing for 5 minutes every morning for the next month. Step 4. Create a routine. Consistency is key to effective stress management. Incorporate your chosen strategies into a daily or weekly routine to make them habits. Example routine: morning, 10 minutes of meditation and a healthy breakfast. Afternoon, a short walk or stretch break during work. Evening, gratitude journaling and a relaxing bedtime routine. Exercise. Design a daily or weekly schedule that includes your stress management activities. Start small and gradually build on your routine. Step 5. Monitor and adjust. Stress management is an ongoing process. Regularly assess what's working and what's not, and be willing to adjust your plan as needed. Exercise. At the end of each week, review your stress journal and reflect on your progress. Ask yourself, what strategies helped the most? What challenges did I face? What changes can I make to improve my plan? Real-life example: a personalized stress management plan. Let's look at how someone created and implemented a personalized stress management plan. The story of Mark. Mark was a busy professional who often felt overwhelmed by work and family responsibilities. He decided to create a stress management plan to regain balance in his life. Assessed his stressors. Work deadlines, lack of sleep, and limited family time were his main stressors. Coping strategies: proactive, time management and regular exercise. Reactive, deep breathing and weekly family dinners. Set SMART goals. I will exercise for 30 minutes 3 times a week for the next month. I will spend at least 1 hour of quality time with my family every evening. Created a routine. Morning, 10 minutes of deep breathing and a healthy breakfast. Evening, family dinner and a relaxing bedtime routine. Monitored and adjusted. After a month, Mark noticed that exercise and family time significantly reduced his stress. He decided to add mindfulness meditation to his morning routine for even greater benefits. Why a personalized plan matters. A personalized stress management plan empowers you to take control of your stress and build resilience. By tailoring strategies to your unique needs, you can reduce the impact of stress on your mental and physical health, improve your ability to cope with challenges, create a more balanced and fulfilling life. Final reflection exercise. Take a moment to reflect on your stress management journey. What have you learned about your stressors and coping mechanisms? What steps will you take to create and implement your personalized plan? Write down your commitment to managing stress and thriving under pressure. This concludes Chapter 10 and the book Everyday Psychology. By understanding and applying the psychological principles covered in these chapters, you can navigate life's challenges with greater clarity, resilience, and confidence. Thank you for joining me on this journey, and I wish you all the best in your pursuit of personal growth and well-being.